Hello, this is Sondra Oster Baras, bringing you a few words of Bible from the heart of Biblical Israel. Today's Torah portion is Naso. It is the second Torah portion of the book of Numbers. And I'd like to focus on a very interesting but perhaps unusual section in chapter 5. It is the topic of what we call in Hebrew the sotah. A sotah is a woman who is suspected of committing adultery, and I'd like to just note a few details here to give you just an overview of what happens in this case. If a woman is suspected of committing adultery, there's a process by which she is brought to the temple, and there are certain verses that are written on a piece of paper and is then melted into this water. And it's called the bitter waters, and she drinks the waters. And if she is an innocent, nothing happens. And if she is guilty, she will have some kind of, her insides will fall. It's a very gruesome description, exactly what happens. But she will definitely either fall ill or may even die from this process. And so it becomes very, very obvious to everyone around there what the story is. Is she guilty or is she innocent? And I'd like to focus on a few things that I think were interesting to us. I think many people today see this in a very negative light. Why is it that they're picking on the woman and nobody cares about the man? And you know, if he commits adultery? And what you have to realize that in biblical times, bigamy was not necessarily encouraged, but it's certainly, or polygamy even, but it was certainly allowed. And therefore, there would have been no reason for a man to commit adultery because he would just take another wife. Whereas a woman was always restricted to only one husband. Now, we can say that that's not fair, but it may be, but that is very much fitting into the biblical view of the relation between men and women. We don't have to discuss that right now. But I think in that context, though, it pays to see some of the wisdoms that we can see in this whole discussion and in the legal parameters that are here, exactly how these things are phrased, and I think gain some very interesting insight. So first of all, it begins in verse 11. If a man's wife has gone astray, here we're setting a fact. We're not saying what somebody thinks. And indeed, this whole procedure will indeed test, has this man's wife actually gone astray? But how does it actually happen? What happens that the process begins? And that we see in verse 14, that a spirit of jealousy has come over him, the husband, and he is jealous of his wife. Okay? And here we have two options. Either he's jealous of his wife and she has indeed committed adultery, or he is jealous of his wife and she is indeed totally innocent. And I think this is what's so fascinating about this. It's so human. We all know that jealousies can arise in a marriage. And sometimes a husband can be jealous of his wife for good reason, and sometimes for absolutely no good reason. And today, when jealousies arrive on either side, whether the wife suspects the husband of adultery or the husband suspects the wife of adultery, there's really no way of knowing for sure. There are people who will hire private detectives, and they will unfortunately penetrate all kinds of intimate places and take pictures, and it's a very lurid kind of situation. And there's also situations where they never will find out the truth. And so you have this husband and wife who are in a problematic relationship because they don't trust one another, having no really good way to resolve that, to come to a situation where they really know for sure, can they trust each other? And so what this process does is it creates a situation of truth. The husband, if he suspects her, and also there's something else here. It says in verse 13, it says, it was done in secret. She keeps a secret, or it's in secret. This is based on the fact that whatever it is the woman may have done was done beyond the eyes of anybody. So there is no way of really knowing for sure whether she is innocent or not. They bring her to the temple. She drinks this whole thing. And at the end of it, we know for a fact, okay, the priest will give her the water. Okay, and this is in verse 27. Once he has made her drink the water, if she has defiled herself by breaking faith with her husband, the spell-inducing water shall enter into her to bring on bitterness, so that her belly shall distend, her thighs shall sag, and the woman shall be a curse among her people. But if the woman has not defiled herself and is pure, she shall be unharmed and will become pregnant. She will retain seed, and she will become pregnant. And here, this verse has been interpreted to be, if you have a situation where the husband has been jealous for no good reason, has suspected his wife, and she is in fact innocent, God will bless them with a baby as a way of, first of all, the husband and wife come out of this ceremony, and the husband knows for sure that his wife was innocent. And that in itself is a way to bring them together and to rebuild the trust between them. And by then giving her the opportunity to have a baby right away is something that is seen as a way to kind of cement that relationship. Out of that, they can rebuild their family, they can rebuild their relationship, and they can have children. It's a very, very interesting mechanism, and it's completely based on supernatural. It is God who gets involved here. There's no judges here. And I think it's a very important statement in that the Bible itself seems to be saying this is the kind of thing that judges are never really going to be able to get to the bottom of. If everything has been done in secret and there's no evidence, innuendos and, this kind of a look or that kind of a statement, it is not enough to really make sure that you've reached the truth. Has there been adultery here or not? And this whole story, this whole situation brings home to us that there are things that man can never really know for sure. And so God has given us a mechanism by which we can bring harmony again to the family in a case where the jealousy has really been without foundation. Unfortunately, in the Talmud, we learn that there came a time when adultery was so rampant that the bitter waters did no longer work. And that also makes sense. This kind of thing can work if it's an unusual situation. But if it becomes, society itself breaks down, and marriage is no longer what it should be, and it's a total free-for-all, well then it's a free-for-all. And we're all back to our own devices because God is not going to get involved and fix something when it's a whole society that really needs to be fixed. And then we as human beings have to figure out how to fix it. We can't rely on miracles to fix a whole society. Have a wonderful weekend and Shabbat Shalom.
I hope you enjoyed that video. And we'd like to be sure you're getting all of our video content. So just click on the subscribe button below as well as on the notification bell. And that way you will have easy access to all our material. We look forward to staying in touch with you. God bless you and have a wonderful day.